The movies I watched in April, what about them? It was a pretty active month with some fantastic new releases, some awful new releases, the start and end of a franchise, and some early 2010 films. Let's get into it! Please help your favorite average movie guy get to 1,000 subscribers by subscribing right now. Snow White, 1 out of 5. I started off my month with a cinema visit to the Snow White remake, following the princess's fight to reclaim her kingdom from the evil queen. Being boring is pretty much the largest contributor to a film being bad in my opinion, and this film just flew by, but in a bad way. There were a couple cool scenes in terms of imagery and tension, but most of it was uninspired and over-reliant on CGI. The performances were also bland, with Gal Gadot being just absolutely awful. Speaking of awful, the dwarves. Such uncanny valley when you could have given some shine to short actors. And for a film with this many songs, I counted one somewhat good one. I can't say much on the changes to the original. I can see that the evil queen is way worse and comedic and that the dwarves play a smaller role. But I mostly looked at it as a film on its own, and as that it is pretty awful. So I could guess that it's even worse as a modern adaptation. The Incredibles, 4 out of 5. Next up I watched this animated classic on Disney+, about a family of undercover superheroes who must come out of retirement to stop a new villain threatening the world. I would say it's almost incredible. It surprised me in the way that it played out. I expected way more runtime with the family team already formed, while most of the family is fully missing from the second act. It meant that the film took a little while to get going. Even though the parts before it were enjoyable to watch, it fully kicks into gear when the family teams up. The film is very original in its writing, with some great action sequences, with the Elastigirl door scene being a standout. It does a pretty good job at making fun of the superhero genre while also embracing it. It isn't laugh-out-loud funny, but it has some clever jokes for superhero film enjoyers, and a voice cast that does an excellent job. Final Destination, 3.5 out of 5. Next up, I started watching this franchise on Netflix, both for research purposes for an upcoming video and just to catch up to speed for the new one. It follows a teen who has a premonition of a deadly accident and after cheating death, must outsmart it. It is very similar to Scream, but it's less funny and more fucked up to look at. It was actually way more sad than I expected, but the film is nowhere near as scary. It is fucked up to look at sometimes and has a couple jump scary moments, but it's not necessarily scary. It is, however, a pretty clever and original film within its sort of dumb premise. The acting is also okay, but that ending just didn't really leave me satisfied, while the rest of the film was pretty engaging to watch. Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, 2.5 out of 5. Next up, me and my girlfriend, who is now pretty much done with it to be honest, continued the Pirates franchise, where Captain Jack Sparrow searches for the Fountain of Youth while facing old enemies and new rivals. I have to say it's more cohesive than before, but it's less magical. It is pirates with a new look, and you don't really miss the old characters because, to be honest, they weren't always the best. While the new characters were a good addition, some of the old characters that remain are starting to become caricatures of themselves. I know everyone likes Barbossa, but I feel like Jeffrey Rush has always been overacting a bit too much, which became way more apparent to me here. It is similar to the other Pirates films in a positive way, because it remains pretty entertaining, but it isn't as grand in terms of spectacle and not as interesting from a visual standpoint. It also has a similar issue to every Pirates film after the first. A very slow and somewhat boring middle part, where everyone is just kinda traveling in order to meet up. With the addition of the dumb mermaid love story sideplot, which was very, very unnecessary. A Minecraft movie, 1.5 out of 5. Next up I caught the Minecraft adaptation at the cinema, following 4 people teaming up with Steve to take down the evil pigling queen. First we mine, then we craft. I have to say it's not offensively bad, it is pretty much bad in a way that makes you laugh. It was visually way better than expected with only a few dodgy looking scenes. Though some of the dialogue and delivery weren't great, with Momoa being a shining light and Jack Black being absolutely awful. He is just saying things and pointing stuff out for the entire runtime. However, the biggest problem is that the film is a waste. It doesn't follow the rules of Minecraft and they could have done so much with this film. Instead of exploring the world with the characters for the first time, just as you do in the game, Steve is just there to run us through it incredibly fast. It just didn't feel like a Minecraft movie, it felt like a plethora of clips of people pointing things out put together. Final Destination 2, 2.5 out of 5. Next up, I continued the Final Destination franchise. You again get entertainment value, fun kills, a sense of mystery, and now the addition of a sort of reverse whodunit by not knowing who is next. However, in many ways it is worse than the first. It weirdly enough is way more convoluted. I had no clue what was going on by the end. The group of characters as a whole might even be slightly better, but Alex Browning was such an intriguing and tragic protagonist for a silly horror film. A character of this quality is not present here. But the funniest thing about the film in a bad way is that the acting itself is just laughable. The characters act so unfazed compared to what they are meant to be seeing. Final Destination 3, 4 out of 5. Next up, I was fully on the Final Destination train, or should I say roller coaster. It is very similar to the first in many ways, but I feel it's slightly better. The film goes back to what worked in 1, a group of mostly classmates who all have previous connections, which works better in terms of the dynamic, with the film adding an extra dramatic layer for the lead character, who is finally played by a good actress. The film is fucked up as ever with again some crazy kills. It even feels like more than before and probably the most iconic as a collective. The picture thing is also a pretty brilliant addition in order to guide us through the story, but from the perspective within the film doesn't really make sense. It has some good additions to what made the first film good, making it even better in my opinion. The Final Destination, 1 out of 5. Next up I got to the number 4 in the franchise, which is also by far the worst in the franchise. To start off, it had the most ridiculous first scene. The cars keep on driving for minutes when people are getting killed. It doesn't make sense at all. The bad acting is also back after the last installment, and it's even worse than it was before. The film also has some incredibly awful CGI with some extremely stupid 3D effects when not watching in 3D. At the very least, I liked the security guard as a character, who also pretty much was the only one that had some depth. The film is easily the shortest in the franchise, but it felt the longest just due to its bad quality. Here, 3 out of 5. Next up I caught the new Robert Zemeckis film on Prime Video, following multiple families living in the same New England house across centuries, exploring love, loss, and time. It uses a gimmick that doesn't always work. It is a film that is held together by the artistic choice it makes, and it took me extremely long to get used to the weird jumping around and editing style. And even when you get used to it, it doesn't always work. Seeing the previous and future inhabitants of the house was more of a distraction than a cool addition to the story, because it just happens so frequently. Some of the de-aging effects also weren't great, however it surprisingly got me to care towards the end. Something which a film like this is supposed to do. If it wasn't for the final act, it would be way worse. We Bought a Zoo, 4.5 out of 5. Next up I watched this film on Disney Plus with my girlfriend, about the true story of a man who buys a struggling zoo and works to restore it while healing his family after a personal tragedy. Honestly, this film just got to me. The story around buying the zoo is fine and interesting, and the performances are good, especially Damon. However, what got me was the family dynamic after losing the mom of the family. Even though it felt a little surface level for a lot of it, a couple moments just got me right where it needed to, and made me cry my eyes out. Props for that. Final Destination 5, 3 out of 5. Next up, I finished the franchise for now. It's just always water and electrics with these movies. The film felt less original than especially 1 to 3, but it still had the right amount of tension and anticipation. It was a cool addition that taking someone's life could give you life, but how do they really know that within universe? But let's be honest, that ending was just great. I was already wondering during the film, but didn't see that coming. It is pretty cool, but I honestly don't know how it makes sense within the bigger picture of the franchise. Sinners, 4.5 out of 5. Next up I watched the new Coogler Jordan collab at the cinema, about twin brothers who fight to save their juke joint and community from a sinister threat in 1930s Mississippi. Cinema is back, baby! It is a great genre film with interesting characters, a fantastic score, great cinematography, and powerhouse performances across the board. Michael B. Jordan is fantastic in one of his best roles, and Miles Caton is great in his acting debut. The film has two very different halves, with both being great. It has the right amount of slow burn and setup in order for you to care when the film leads you into the chaos. However, there is just something small missing. It might just be within the switch of the genre, but it could honestly not be the film itself, but more the lack of surprise because the trailers gave so much away. Pitch Perfect, 3.5 out of 5. Next up I watched this film with, you can guess, my girlfriend on Netflix, which follows a college freshman who joins an all-female a cappella group, helping them reinvent their sound to compete for a national title. Anna Kendrick is just bae. Don't let my girlfriend hear that though. I know I'm not the target audience, but I enjoyed it very much. It drags a little in the middle part, it has every stereotype you can think of for a film like this, and it ends up being very predictable, but that doesn't diminish the enjoyability. It's just a very entertaining watch, with great songs and chemistry between the interesting characters. The Accountant, 2.5 out of 5. Next up, I watched this film on Prime Video to get ready for part 2. It follows Christian Wolff, you can guess it, an accountant with deadly skills who uncovers a dangerous conspiracy while working for criminal organizations. I have to be honest, I just couldn't really get into it, and it even lost me towards the end. It had a great introduction scene which hooked me initially, but the film didn't keep me hooked all throughout. The characters have close to no chemistry, and Affleck's performance is fine but very flat. And I know it's meant to be, but they could have done something different with it. The film does have an interesting story, with some cool action, with a sort of plot twist I weirdly enough didn't see coming. And it's also surprisingly funny, with dry humor that really worked. It's just a shame that the last act went one ear in and one ear out. Warfare, 4.5 out of 5. Next up, I returned to the cinema to watch the new Alex Garland film, a director who has always intrigued me. It follows a Navy SEAL team who fights to survive after a mission goes wrong in Iraq. It just doesn't show you war, it makes you live it. It is honestly one of the best war or anti-war films I have seen. It's just a harrowing experience, beautifully shot, beautifully acted with a strong message. Especially that sound design was just pretty much perfect and a lock for the Oscars, to be honest. It's like the first act of Saving Private Ryan, but for the entire runtime. It's such tension. The film sucks you dry of any energy and leaves you exhausted at the cinema. The Accountant 2, 3.5 out of 5. The last film of the month was again a cinema visit with the sequel I mentioned earlier. It follows Christian Wolff and his brother Braxton as they uncover a deadly conspiracy while investigating a murder. It had more of the same and was different where it needed to be, luckily. It had the same deadpan comedy and cool action, but added a lot more heart. While I also felt that Affleck's performance was better. However, the most notable positive change were the new interactions between the characters. Where they were on opposite sides in the first, the team-up is just way more entertaining and intriguing. My only minor gripes are the weak main villain, the hacker kids, and some dumb moments. But in general, a very enjoyable sequel with a lot more heart. And that's it for my movie watches this month. These were my best and worst watches of the month. I hope you guys again enjoyed me rambling about some movies I watched. If you did, be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe for more videos like these. I have been Dean, the average movie guy on your screen. Big thanks for watching. See you next time. Roll the credits.